Hi again, this is Miss Shaw, and today our subject is going to be about writing. Our lesson and objective will be to learn about one method of engaging students in a peer conference for writing. This method is called PATS. How do you help a peer with his or her writing? PATS is the answer. Having a conference is one of the most valuable ways you can get feedback from your peers. What can you do to have a conference that will help you improve your writing? That's what this presentation is all about. So sit back, relax, and learn about one important strategy called PATS that will make your writing even better. So you have a few materials that you'll need to get together for our PATS. The first thing would be to choose a part of your writing that you want help with. The second thing, you need to write 2 to 3 questions about your writing that you want your peers to think about as they are reading your composition. Another thing is you need to have 1 or 2 peers who will help you with revising your writing through the PATS process. You also need a note card for each of your peers that has P equals, A equals, T equals, and S equals. And you'll find out what each of those letters means in this presentation. And finally, you'll each need a pencil for every member in your group. What is PATS? I have asked one of my students to come and help me demonstrate what the PATS process is. So, we have been doing a lot of this in class. Can you remember what P means?
Give a praise.
What about A?
Ask a question about the writing, either something you want to know more about or ask something that confused you.
How about the T?
Tell something that stuck with you.
And finally, the S.
Make a suggestion.
All right, are you ready to try it?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So there are a few things that I as a writer will need to prepare for before I share my writing with my peer. The first thing is I need to choose a passage from my writing that I'd like help with, and I've already done that, so we'll get to that in just a minute. The next thing is to write 2 or 3 questions that you want your partner to think about as he or she is reading the passage from your writing. And I've already come up with my questions, which are right here, and I'll share those with my peer in a moment. And finally, it says, share these questions with your peer before you read your passage together. And like I said, we'll be doing that momentarily, so hang around with us. All right, let's read. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to share my questions with my wonderful peer who is here to help me. So my first question is, how do you like the first paragraph as an introduction? That's one thing I want you to be thinking about. The second thing is, do you think the second paragraph would make a better introduction, or should I go ahead and keep both? So those are the 2 things I'd like you to think about, and I'm going to give you that so you can think about it as I'm reading, okay? And next, we are going to sit right next to each other like we're doing now so that he can read along silently as I read my writing out loud. Joy is like hiking to the summit of a mountain with someone you love. You can hardly contain yourself because you can't wait to get there. And once you're there, you can't stop hugging because you accomplished your feat together. This exhilaration is exactly what I felt every time my dog Sammy and I did something together. For example, when we climbed the red rocks of Sedona, not only was I challenging myself to conquer my fear of rock climbing, but Samantha was challenged because of her permanent leg injury. Of course, she was the one who would have persevered all the way to the top of that maroon plateau. In her 6.5 years of life, she never gave up. Sammy was an extraordinary dog, and I was the luckiest girl in the world to be her mom. You're probably sitting there asking yourself, how could this dog be any more special than all the other faithful companions who roam around the world? Your thoughts are certainly valid. Every dog is unique and leaves paw prints on the hearts of family members in their own special way. Each one brings unconditional love and friendship like no other living being on earth can. Sammy, of course, possessed these traits too, but she was even more eccentric. You see, my dog Sammy lived her life as if she was a cat. This was the only dog I ever knew who actually had 9 lives. Let's revise. So now I'm going to ask my partner the questions that I had asked him earlier and see what he thinks about the questions surrounding my introduction that I chose to share with him. So my first question is, how do you like the first paragraph as an introduction?
Well, I like the first paragraph as an introduction because it gets me it gets me to want to read the story, because there is it sounds like there's a bunch of joy in it, and that the dog Sammy is a really good companion, and it seems like it would be really good to read.
Do you think the second paragraph would make a better introduction, or should I leave both the paragraphs in there together?
I think you should leave both the paragraphs in there together, because there is I like it how you set it up, where there's the first paragraph is I just like it how it is. I wouldn't really want it to change, because then it might have, I like it how it is.
Okay. So now I'm going to give you time to write your PATS on the PATS card. You can also ask to take a look at my writing again if you need to. So I'm going to pause this now while you take your time to write your PATS, okay?
Okay.
Let's share. Give me a P.
P.
What is your praise?
Oh, I like how you began with the simile. Joy is like hiking to the summit of a mountain with someone you love.
Give me an A.
A.
So what's the question that you have about my writing?
Was this when you lived in Arizona?
It actually is when I lived in Arizona, and you'd find that out by reading the third paragraph, which I didn't have you read yet. So that's a great question to find out about the setting.
Okay.
Give me a T.
T.
So what was something that stuck with you?
Something that stuck with me would be when you said Sammy was an extraordinary dog. It told me that you really liked Sammy.
Give me an S.
S.
What's your suggestion?
How did Sammy have 9 lives?
So you'd like to know how Sammy had 9 lives in my writing?
Yeah.
Well, the good news is I'm actually writing a book about this, so I've already written about 7 of her lives. So you just have to keep reading to find out more.
Cool.
The final stage is to look at your peers' feedback. So I've got my PATS here from my partner, and I've got my questions that he was looking at that I wanted some feedback on. And I'm thinking about the following things. The first thing is, would it make sense to answer the question that my peer asked and add it to the story? Well, the question that he asked was this when you lived in Arizona? And that was a great question, because actually it came up in the very next paragraph. So definitely I would add that to the story, or it's already there. The next thing I would look at is there more you could tell about the topic that stuck with your peer that would make your story better? And the T that my partner gave me was the fact that Sammy was an extraordinary dog, and he wanted to know more about that. So if I told you more about how she was extraordinary, it sounds like that would be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
The third thing I would consider is, do I like the suggestion that my peer gave me? And the suggestion was to tell how Sammy had 9 lives, and I was already going to do that. So we were already thinking on the same wavelength. So that's great. Then I finally want to thank my partner, and thank you.
You are welcome.
And I'm going to revise my writing based on the answers that my super awesome partner gave to me.